Welcome back, guys, to After Hours. Today we have Erica Kristen. This will be episode 24. Um, as I said last week, I was going to have a break in the podcast. I'm not doing that. What can I say? I'm an addict. There will be a break at some point, but I'm enjoying doing it. I've got my flow. I see from stats and analytics that people are enjoying it, people are listening, people are engaging. So why stop when it's just going really well? And I know it's helping lots of people. So yeah, so I'm just going to continue doing it. As I say, I will have kind of maybe breaks on and off in between. I might run out of guests. I might run out of steam. I don't want to put myself in a position where the podcast is eating away at me. But for now, I'm enjoying doing it, and I know you guys are too. So thank you to all the listeners worldwide as well. Please message me or comment or let me know if you're in New Zealand. That got me up to number 5 in the alternative health category chart in New Zealand. So that was amazing. I put a reel out, but nobody got back to me. So whether these are just organic listeners that don't follow me on Instagram, that may be the case, or maybe they've just not commented or seen the reel. But yeah, so today we've got, as I say, Erica. Erica's got a fantastic story. She was dependent on alcohol at quite an early age, but from the outset, it didn't. I hate the word functioning alcoholic, but for want of a better term, that is what she was. She was struggling internally, and a few friends were kind of mentioning, going, oh, but not to the extent of, you've got a problem, you need to quit. Apart from our family. Our family were so worried, but it's quite easy with family to kind of dodge them, not answer calls, not go round. But I guess that raises flags with families as well. So, they kind of did a bit of an intervention, and it's an amazing kind of show of love and strength from her family. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy this episode because Erica has made an amazing life for herself, and just listen now. Thanks, guys. See you at the end. Erica, welcome to After Hours. How are you
Hi
today?
there. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful sunny day here, so I'm in a good mood.
Good. Where are you in the world?
I am in Oregon in the US, so it's like on the west coast of the US above California.
Yeah,
That kind of
and
helps people that are not from the US know where it is.
well, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, we kind of like America's such a big place, and like we've obviously had a little bit of kind of trying to get this pinned down, time difference, and obviously I think now we're in daylight saving time or British summertime, whatever it's called. So Oregon
Yes.
has two time zones. I mean, we've literally got one time zone, the
No,
whole
it
of the
has three
UK.
time zones or
Three.
four. Yeah, because we've got so we have like the west coast where I'm from. We have the
Yeah,
middle of the US,
yeah.
the mid, and then we have the east coast, and then like we have like Hawaii, which is like an island, and that's like a whole other time
Oh
zone.
no, but what I was meaning, Oregon itself, the state has two time zones, doesn't it?
Oh, okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, yeah. But I mean, for one state, you guys have got two time zones. It's like, my God, that's
It's
quite
it
insane.
is pretty crazy, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm glad we could make this work. I actually, when I was 17, I visited the UK because my uncle's from there. And so
Hmm.
like I always remember that it's normally an 8 hour difference because I always had to kind of time out when I would like call my parents, you know what I mean, while I was
Yeah,
there. So it
yeah.
still is stuck in my head that it's like usually 8 hours.
It's usually about that, but it can kind of change with different summer times and things like that. So, yeah. So obviously it's early morning for you. You're bright and breezy. So let's. What we want to know is just a little bit about your kind of childhood and then when you had your first drink.
Sure. So what's interesting about this situation is like I had like a very pleasant, normal childhood.
Yeah.
Definitely no traumas or anything. Like it's one of those memories that I like to revisit a lot. But when I was like a teenager, I started drinking when I was like maybe 15 or 16, but I wouldn't say that like it was a problem. It was like every once in a while I'd drink at my friend's house whose parents didn't care if we did it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah,
But it
sure,
was just
sure.
like every once in a while. It didn't feel like an addiction or anything. And it wasn't until like I went into college when I was like 18, 19
Hmm.
and started like partying with my friends, that I just noticed I was like always blacking out, like it
Okay.
was, which at that time feels normal when you're like a college kid, like everybody's doing that,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
for the
not
most part.
I mean, in America, you guys have got in the US, you've got like what is it, 21 before you can drink
21.
legally, but obviously you're doing it a bit earlier. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Like, college, university, high school, even at the end, like proms and things like that. That's what people did, isn't it? You'd go out and you'd get drunk, and it was kind of like the thing to kind of get drunk to kind of pass out or be sick or whatever. That was
Yeah, it
just the kind
is.
of,
Like you're young, so you're taking things to the extreme. It's like new
yeah.
and fun to you. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do kind of they grow out of that. So, did you grow out of that? I mean, I certainly
no,
didn't.
so I think that's when I started realizing that it was an issue that, my other friends were always drinking with me, but then like I would get blacked out and then I'd hear people tell me weird stories the next morning and I always felt like, oh my gosh, these are things I normally would never do because I'm
Hmm.
kind of a goody goody when I'm not drinking. And so once I like hit like 22, 23, I was in like a serious relationship and I
Hmm.
was living with him. We were together for 4 years and like he just started to notice that like he would start pointing out to me that like I was drinking too much. And like he liked to drink too, but more of like a normal drinker. Like he would notice that we would be watching a movie at night and like he'd have 2 glasses of wine. And then he'd notice that like I had several and I was drunk. And he'd be like, why are you doing this on a Tuesday night while we're watching a movie?
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that kind of thing. And like I started realizing it was an issue, but still being only like 22, 23, I was thinking, oh, I'll grow out of this, like
yeah. Well, he's just
I
been
didn't think.
boring, isn't he? He's been boring. It's like, whatever, I'm doing my thing, you do you, and we'll be fine. Yeah.
Exactly. And I also noticed like in that relationship, since it wasn't the best relationship, I kind of, whenever we would have problems, it was one of those things where I started drinking to make myself like not care about the problems. And I started making that connection. Like we'd get in a big fight.
Hmm.
Like he would leave and like I didn't drive at the time. So like I would be stuck at our apartment and like I would feel so upset. And like to make myself feel better, I would like take a bath and like finish a whole bottle of wine to myself. And I'd be like, oh, I feel better. Like suddenly I don't care that we got into a fight and I'm having a good time by myself. And I
Hmm.
think I just started applying that to lots of different things in life. Like it
Yeah.
didn't seem like a problem to me at that time. It just kind of seemed like a solution to like not feeling upset in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's almost like self-medicating at that point because you're like, well, you know what? I'll just escape from it all and this will make me feel better. And so
Yeah.
what were you doing kind of, college-wise and work-wise at this point? Were you working or?
So I was working. I was like a preschool teacher, which sounds bad, but I was always on my best behavior at work. Thankfully, it never became a problem where like I was drinking at work. It was always like at nighttime. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yes, I was working full time.
Hmm.
School was over at that point. Um, yeah, so it was mostly working. Although I would go to work feeling pretty crappy most mornings because I was
Hmm.
always drinking a little too much every evening, even like on work nights.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And
And
so
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
go on.
interesting because, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I was just saying, go on, go on, go on.
Oh, so I think at this point I started to like question myself a little bit because I have alcoholism runs like on my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
My dad himself doesn't deal with it, but like his brothers do, and like his mom and his dad did. And so it kind of started becoming on my radar that like maybe this could be a potential problem.
Hmm.
But once again, being in my early 20s and like I didn't care that much, I still just wanted to like party with my friends and drink a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially because like growing up, I don't have any like a lot of people have some past trauma that makes them turn to drinking, and I didn't really feel like I ever had that, which goes to show that like people can have like a really nice, pleasant childhood and still find themselves in addiction later in life. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
always have to stem from a trauma.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think it does a lot of the time, but definitely not all of the time.
No, I mean I'm the same. I mean I've searched back and I did come from I wouldn't even call it a broken home, but my parents got divorced. We I had a kind of idyllic kind of childhood growing up. We lived, in the countryside, and I had wide open fields, and I didn't go without, so there wasn't any trauma really in that respect. But looking back, I just really, really enjoyed it, and I
Yeah.
think because it's an addictive drug, so the more you
Yeah.
do it, the more you're going to become, well, eventually dependent on it, and I think that is, people do search for trauma, and obviously, yeah, there is a lot of trauma that leads people to, that kind of escapism by alcohol and subsequently drugs as well, but it doesn't
Yes.
always have to be that. And the thing is, they're doing so much research at the moment that they're finding so many different things. Is it hereditary? It can be. Is it trauma? Yeah, it can be. There's just so many different things. But the key
Yes.
the key aspect is it's a drug. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. It is a drug,
It is.
and
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Like, it affects like your whole like nervous system, you know? It's just,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I've just heard, I feel like it's interesting because alcohol, especially like well, I'm jumping ahead of the game now.
No, no, it's
Um,
cool.
when I
Go on.
when I went to rehab, like, in the rehab I was in, there was just people that had so many different addictions to different drugs.
Hmm.
And one thing I noticed is that like people who were withdrawing from alcohol struggled so much more from people who were withdrawing from things like meth or like heroin, or like, I was just shocked by that.
Yeah,
Something that's legal and so normalized in society is like one of the most dangerous things that you can withdraw from, if you're
yeah.
addicted to it.
I mean, been in. I used to go to NA over here, and I still pop in from time to time. And I know a lot of like my friends, my peers that were heroin addicts, and they always used to. They kind of laugh because the withdrawal from alcohol is so much more quicker than, like, say, opioids, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously it is the most dangerous one because you can't and I might be wrong, but I don't think you can die from withdrawing from heroin or opioids, but with alcohol you totally can do,
I
from
don't, yeah,
seizures.
exactly. I think it's one
Yeah,
of the only ones that you can die from.
yeah,
I really think you're right. Obviously,
yeah,
I'll look into that a little bit more, but that sounds very correct. Yeah.
yeah, which
Like just from the withdrawal, I can give you a heart attack, especially because your body is like just so anxious that your heart
yeah.
rate is already up so high.
And this is the legal drug, it's
Yeah.
that's the madness of the whole thing. So
Right.
what
Make it make sense because it doesn't make sense.
so what era was your kind of teen years and early 20s? I'm guessing like kind of noughties and into the. I'm
Is
being
kind of
very
what?
tactile and not asking you your age here, Erica.
Oh, no, I don't mind sharing my age. So I just turned 37 last week.
Sure, right, okay, okay. So I'm guessing,
Yes.
like, late 90s, early noughties was kind of your kind of decade for teens and early
Yes.
20s.
90s
Yeah.
baby. Yes.
Which in the UK, and I'm pretty sure in America, we had that whole kind of, well, we had Britpop and you guys had the whole kind of like Blink 182 and
Yes.
Green Day and obviously the American Pie films. That was all very prevalent. So it was just,
Yes.
those teen movies were just party, 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 like,
Oh yeah,
you
it's
know,
true.
so it's kind of difficult for us to kind of come out of that unscathed when that's what we were being projected from, like, the media, to this is how you're meant to have a good time.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, so true. And it was accurate. Like people do party in their teens. People are getting addicted to things like at 14. Like that's not uncommon. Like
yeah, yeah, and
it's just,
the films kind of completely normalize it. And do you know what? Like those films they were great films, were funny films, but
yes,
you
I do
kind
love
of
them.
look back and it's like that was what the whole culture was about, and it's just pure madness. So really,
Oh, it is.
when did it kind of really start? Kind of when you, even though like your boyfriend and maybe other people have told you that alcohol's
Yeah.
maybe getting on top of you, when did you
So
think? Excuse me, sorry, my phone. I should have put it on silent. So
you're
when did
fine.
you really think that it kind of started becoming an issue?
So like I think I left off talking about like my early 20s. So like
Yeah,
after I got out of that relationship, and I would say I was like 24, it just kept getting worse and worse by the year. Like by the time I was 24, 25, like I was always partying with my friends, and like at that point I was like drinking every single day. Like I never would go a day without drinking. It wasn't like binging at that point, but like it was like my mom and dad would notice that like I would hide like little wine cartons like in my closet. Like they started noticing me just like hiding my drinking, which is always a bad sign, right? When you're hiding
course.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
And got into another relationship, but with somebody who was an alcoholic himself. And so like the two of us were just like the worst combination because
Mm.
we would just always be out partying and drinking with like the wrong crowd and like starting to dabble in like other drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never say that like the other drugs were my addiction because like I would never do them unless I already was several drinks in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was always the alcohol that was the main problem, the starter kind of thing.
Exactly same with me. It never became a major issue. They were just kind of more like, I hate the word recreational, but they were
Yeah.
recreational, whereas
Yeah.
alcohol
I
was
think
like
it's
a
accurate to say that.
full-time job, you know. Yeah.
Yes. And so it was around this time, like my mid 20s, 25, 26, that I started like really like it started affecting my work. Like I just found
Mm.
myself calling out so often. And I was just kind of going from job to job. Once again, thankfully I never got to the point where I was like drinking at work, but it would be like I'd wake up and still feel drunk and like I just wouldn't go in. I'd
Yeah.
make excuses for myself. So it was just starting to affect my daily life. And I'm
And were
trying to
you
think.
getting, sorry, but were you getting fired from these jobs, or was that more like you would just
Thankfully,
leave?
no.
No. Yeah.
I don't know why I wasn't. I probably should have been. I think I was, nobody really noticed I had a problem in my workspace. I think I've always just had a very upbeat attitude. And like, even when I'm feeling like shit, I
Yeah.
still am a very positive, nice person. And people would just be like, oh my gosh, we had no idea. We just thought that you were somebody that was like not good at committing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
So I kind of
also
just got, yeah.
it's much easier to function as a I hate the word, but alcoholic, or someone with alcohol use disorder. It's really easy to function when you're like in your 20s and early 30s.
Yes,
I
your body's
managed
still
it.
kind of helping you out there.
What's that?
Your body is still on your
Yeah,
side at that point.
absolutely. You can go out for a mad bender weekend, and then you might feel a little bit ropey on a Monday, but not as bad as I mean, when I finished drinking when I was in my 40s, it was just hell. It was absolutely hell.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I
So
bet for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So I was starting to feel really bad at this point. Like, even though I was in my mid to entering my late 20s, like, I was drinking so much at the point that, like, I started feeling like crap all the time. And when I wasn't drinking, I was just extremely anxious. So, like, I started having anxiety attacks around 26, 27 because, man, I'm trying to think. Now I'm like looking back. I'm like, what started? So, at one point, I started binge drinking. I like moved in with my best friend. I moved out from my parents' house, and
Mhm.
which was a mistake because all of a sudden now, like I wasn't around my parents, and I feel like being around my family, I kind of kept my drinking slightly under control.
Yeah.
Meaning, I wasn't getting blacked out drunk or binging at my parents' house. Right? I would drink just enough that I was still presentable. And
Mhm.
now I moved out of their house. I'm in an apartment with my friend, and I have nobody watching me and like moderating me.
Mhm.
So I just started binge drinking. It was like I wouldn't go to work for like 3 days and I just couldn't stop drinking. And it's just like crazy to me because I still ask myself to this day, like, why? Like, what made me do that?
Mhm.
And honestly, I don't even know if I've ever really found the answer. And it's strange. I just felt like I couldn't stop. I just liked the feeling when I was drunk.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah. I mean,
and
that's
I felt like I
like.
was just self destructing like so quickly. And
And how
then
was your flatmate at that point? Were they kind of concerned if they'd see
she
you
was
like just drunk
concerned.
for 3 days?
She was concerned, but she also was in a relationship at that time that she was over at her, she's her husband that she's with now. She was over at his place so often
Ah,
that I wasn't being like as monitored by her. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
think she knew that I like to drink alcohol, but I don't think she ever thought it was as bad as she thought as it really was.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was really good at like faking it, like pretending I was okay.
Yeah. But then you've got
And
that, as you say, you've moved out from your parents, you've almost got that freedom to kind of, you know, do whatever you want. And then you've
yep,
not even got the housemate there to kind of, keep an eye on you. So it's just like you've got this free reign of this apartment. Do you know what? I'm just going to get pissed every single day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just like what I wanted to do. And I don't, yeah, I just felt like so free when I was like drinking. Like I feel like I've always been a person and I've changed a lot in my sobriety. I didn't like to commit to things. I always kind of wanted to just not work and just like do whatever I wanted, like probably matured a little bit late. And I felt like when I was drinking, I felt like I could be that person. I
Hmm.
didn't have to like commit to things.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I really was just like giving in to that weakness, that weak spot of my personality. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, no, I totally get it. And it's just, it's kind of that for want of a better word, like almost like an alter ego. It's like we're doing, the kind of party thing, the rock and roll thing, and you can be
Yes.
this almost other person. You've got the confidence, but
Yeah.
essentially what it sounds like there as well is it's becoming like a kind of like a solo thing. You're not even socializing, you're doing it in your apartment kind of on your own,
Yes. That's
which
the
is
interesting part. Like, oh, I like to do it when I would socialize too, but
yeah.
it got to the point where I was being a little bit of like a hermit and just like staying at home and doing it. And like at that time, I also got into another relationship, which is my husband, who I'm still with today. He has stuck
Hmm,
by my side through it all.
awesome.
We both were like, we started dating and we both were in a bad spot. Like he was fresh out of a divorce, like maybe 9 months out of a divorce. I
Yeah.
was like deep in like alcoholism. And I think at that time we were really both confiding in each other, like
Mhm.
we were both at low points in our life. And yeah, I think I would drink more because I would be upset, being scared that he wasn't over his ex-wife, and like that would feed the fire more of like wanting to drink and not think about things. It was
Mhm.
just a mess for a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I'm kind of getting towards the end here before rehab happened. At
Mhm.
this point, I'm like in the last year, like I'm like 28 years old, and this is about like a year before I went to rehab. And at this point, I'm just like spiraling out of control really quickly. Like I'm drinking so often that I can't go very long without drinking before like I have just a full on panic attack, because that's like one of the withdrawal symptoms is having
Yeah, yeah.
panic attacks. When
Yeah.
you're withdrawing, and like I would have panic attacks that were so bad. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but like my hands would like cramp like this, like clamp together.
I have
It
seen
was
that. Yeah.
it was crazy. It only happened like 3 or 4 times, but
Yeah.
I would go to the hospital because like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like
But like
I
you
would be
think
stuck like that.
the person that happened to was actually an ex-girlfriend of mine. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time, and we didn't realize it was alcohol withdrawal. I'd had seizures. She was doing that. She was putting it down to panic attacks. The doctors were just giving her citalopram to put her on that. But it was like her hands, honestly, it was like what I think they call it lockjaw or whatever. And she
Yes.
literally couldn't make fists. It was just this
Yeah.
pointed hand. And it was
Yes.
so worrying. But I was kind of drinking and I would kind of think she was putting it on sometimes. And it was just this whole horrible
Yes.
mess of belief and
Horrible.
disbelief. Yeah, yeah. And but also
Yes.
you're getting that because you're trying to cold turkey almost, which is super dangerous.
So yeah, what I would do is like I would have a binge for like 3 days, and mind you, I'm like barely eating because I don't
Mm.
know if you were like that too. When you were drinking a lot, your appetite is just not
Oh,
the
yeah. I
same.
mean, it was just vodka would fill me up and that was it. Yeah.
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 So your body's like running off what? Just like liquor and like wine
Yeah.
and no
Yeah.
food. And then I would come down from this binge, and of course I would just feel like hell, like the worst you could possibly feel. I would start to panic, and like that's when like I would start getting the hand cramps and stuff. And like at one point, my parents are the ones that had to take me to the hospital because I was home. I was at my apartment alone, and like I thought I was having a literal heart attack. And like
Mhm.
I called them because I needed them in that moment because I thought I was literally dying. I
Oh
was
no,
just
yeah,
having an
yeah,
anxiety attack.
yeah.
And like they had to take me to the hospital. And like that was like the first and like real intro into them being like, okay, she has a real problem. It's not just the fact that she likes to really drink. Like, we think she has addiction issues.
Yeah.
And so then I started trying to get sober, and I would be sober for like 2 or 3 days at a time, and then I would just start drinking again. And then finally,
And were
one
with
weekend,
the hospital, were they kind of like advising you to just stop? They didn't want to put you on like kind of a medical
they
detox
didn't.
or
So
anything
like they
like
would give
that?
me like an IV that would like give me like, hydration, and they would give me
Yeah.
something that would calm my body, some drug, I don't know what it was.
And then
I wouldn't
send you
feel like I
home.
was high or anything. I would just all of a sudden feel fine. Like I wouldn't feel anxious anymore.
Yeah.
And then after that, they would just like try and give me information on like how to like get sober and stay sober. But like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a full, yeah, it's a bit kind of we've got the same over here. They kind of think, well, they kind of treat you like, well, you're doing this to yourself. So don't get me wrong, there
Yep.
are places I've been to were fantastic, especially over here in the Isle of Man. But a lot of the times they just think, well, you've done this to yourself. They don't treat it like it's a disease or an illness. They just go away and sort yourself out and then come back and yeah, yeah. Sorry, carry
And
on.
no,
Yeah.
no, that's true. That's absolutely true. And so I'm trying to remember. It's like I have to go back and recall.
Mm.
So at that point, it's on my parents' radar. And I'm for 1 year, I'm just flip flopping back and forth between like being sober for 2 days and then binging for a few days, being sober for 2 days, binging for a few days, just a cycle, the vicious cycle.
Yeah, yeah.
And then at one point, I like my parents have me and my brother and sister over every Sunday for like Sunday dinner. It's just what we always do.
Hmm.
I missed like 2 or 3 in a row of those. And then my mom and dad, I didn't know this, but behind my back, they were like, okay, like we need to take the next step. And so like my mom had started calling different rehabs to
Hmm.
just find one that's really good. And she had a friend at work whose child went through the same thing recently. So she was getting help from her. And she had found a rehab. So like I said, I'm in Oregon, which you already know, which is
Hmm.
above California. She had found one in California that had like a really good reputation. And all the ones in Oregon were just trash. She said they were just she didn't want to send me to one that wasn't good. Like,
Yeah,
let's not
no.
waste time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so she found one in California that was had a really good reputation, and she just decided like, okay, so we're gonna have Erica over, and then we're gonna present this to her and just see what she says. And so I tried canceling on them, and they said my mom basically she told me you're coming over here. She's like, either we're going to come over and get you, or you're coming over here. Like you choose which one.
And did you know that this intervention was kind of coming, or were you just kind of
No,
drinking so you were missing the kind of Sunday lunch?
yeah, I didn't know this. I thought I was just canceling again, which I knew they would give me trouble for, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I didn't care. Like I was way too hungover. I was having a
yeah,
panic attack. I did not want to go over there. And my boyfriend, who's who I'm, my husband
yeah,
now, he was
yeah,
my boyfriend at the time. I was living with him, and he basically kind of warned me. He's like, "You need to go over to your parents' house. Like, I think they're going to want you to go to a rehab." And in that moment, I kind of laughed at it, and I was like, "I don't think that I'm going to be doing that." And he's like, "You should really you need to consider it. Like, I think we should go talk to your parents."
hmm
And so in that moment, I told him yes, like let's go talk to them. So like he drove me over to my parents' house,
hmm
and like my parents both handled this with so much grace. Like to this day, I can't get over like how wonderfully they handled it. Like no judgment, not aggressive at all, just very understanding, very loving.
yeah, yeah.
So immediately I go over there and my mom just hugs me. She has tears in her eyes, and like her and my dad sit me down, and they both just tell me that they found this rehab that, beautiful location. They tried to convince me by saying they give you like daily massages there, which was true. They
Yeah,
tried to
yeah.
make it sound like very spa like, trying to convince me as much as possible.
Yeah, like don't go for the getting off the alcohol, go for the spa treatment and the jacuzzi. That's what you're going for. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And because I think the people on the phone of the rehab, like when my mom called the rehab, like told her like she's gonna try and like tell no, she doesn't want to go. So my mom was trying to make it sound very appealing,
Yeah.
and I immediately just said yes, which kind of shocked my parents. Like at that point, like I was just feeling like so done, and it kind of clicked to me that like I can't keep living this way,
Hmm.
because I already had the thought in my head so many times, like, I am so addicted to alcohol. And like, if I continue doing this, like, I'm probably going to die early
Yeah.
because I'm drinking myself to death every day. I'm smoking like a pack of cigarettes, which is something I never did like earlier on in my addiction. And I was like, I'm just not going to make it very long. And
Hmm.
so it all kind of just came together and clicked that like I just wanted to get sober. And so I immediately agreed and I just said, yes, like I will go.
Awesome.
So yeah, and like we
Yeah.
went that night. Like they said bring her here immediately. Like my dad had to drive like
Uh-huh.
12 hours in the car.
Wow.
Like that night, like I went over to my parents' house at like 2 in the afternoon, and like we left by like 6 that evening.
I
Like
mean, like obviously we're in the UK, so again, geographically, like 12 hours drive just doesn't even like register for us. It's like,
yes.
I think if you drive from England to Scotland, it's like maybe 5 hours tops, maybe
Oh,
six.
that sounds nice.
Yeah, but 12 hour. I mean, obviously, like I love what you're saying, the way your parents did that. They weren't like saying, right, Erica, you are going to rehab and bundle you into the car. Like that happens with some people. I mean, I it wasn't quite like that for me, but I didn't really know what was happening and I did agree to go. But it sounds like, yeah, you're right. They did it lovingly
Yeah.
and like you were just done. But then 12 hours your dad drove to did he stop at all? I mean, I'm sure he stopped for gas,
Oh
but
yeah, we had to stop. It was quite the adventure. I'm glad that I don't remember all of it. But
Yeah.
like, so it was like, okay, so it was like my mom and my dad went, and my brother. My brother decided to go. Like, he came over because it was a Sunday dinner situation, and he thought he was just having a normal Sunday dinner. He didn't understand that he was about to enter some kind of intervention situation.
And then
And
drive
like,
to California.
yeah, and like he didn't have to, but he decided that he wanted to go and like be there for me, and like even called into work and told them the situation. They were understanding. My
Oh,
sister was in the U.S. Navy at the time, otherwise she would have been there too.
yeah.
So my family really just like band together to make it happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, we stopped like a million times because the I was drinking wine the entire way because the woman on the phone from the rehab was very specific to my parents that like you're gonna have to let her drink on the way because she's so addicted that like we don't want her to have
Yeah.
dangerous withdrawals.
And seizing up in the back car. Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Were you drinking like on the way? And yeah, obviously you've answered that.
Yes,
That's the
but
thing
they were
because
giving me wine. I wouldn't say it wasn't. It was just enough to keep me kind of drunk. I wasn't like completely wasted.
yeah,
But yeah, we stopped so many times, but literally only for me to go to the bathroom a million times for those drinking
yeah,
wine
yeah,
and
yeah,
like to
yeah.
have a
And
cigarette break.
and probably stopping to get some more wine on the way to kind of keep you
Yeah.
topping up. And how were you feeling like on that drive? I mean, obviously you were kind of buzzed with the wine, but were you ready for it? Were you all the different emotions of like, I
I
don't
would
want
say
to
all
do
the
this?
different emotions. More than anything, I felt ready for it. I was just
Yeah,
like feeling. I was already feeling determined.
yeah,
Um, I was, I don't remember it super well, but I do remember there was like crying. There was just like, it was a bit of a mess. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I
But I
was a
also
hot mess
know
at that
that
time.
I know that emotion when you say you were done. And,
Yes.
like I went to rehab and I wasn't done at that point. I did it more to appease my family. But the final time that I got sober, I was done. And I knew that this was it. I knew I had to do the work afterwards, but I knew that I was done with drinking. And
Did you have like a few different rehab experiences?
I had one rehab experience and then I had multiple relapses after that. And then I got a last detox. So it was kind of like a rehab, but it was in the hospital. It was a medical detox. I was in there for 4 days. And then when I came out, I was like, right, I'm doing all the meetings. I'm doing every group. I'm reading the Quit Lit. I'm watching like things like
Yes.
28 Days with Sandra Bullock, which is an awesome film. Just all of these, everything I could, I was just soaking it
Love
up.
that movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So sorry, so yeah, so like you're thinking I'm done, and you obviously want to go in there and give this your all.
Yes. Yes, I was already feeling that way. I wasn't thinking too much ahead of the game though. It was just like one foot in front of the other at that point.
Sure, one day at a time. And how long was your stay supposed like how long was it? Was it a
So it was about, I think it was like 42, 43 days.
right, sure. Yeah.
It was a 30-day program, but like I had to go through detox first. And like I
Mhm.
was in detox for like a week about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So it was like first you do detox and then they send you to the next location to do your program.
yeah, yeah.
So, and honestly, the whole experience was just like a really nice one. Like I actually, it was just a really positive experience. Detox was a little rough the first couple days.
Oh, I mean, I didn't eat for 3 days. I was just like rattling about in my room, and then, they were like, "You need to come out eventually." And like, I think the second or third day, and then, there was different groups, and we had lovely food made for us. I don't know if what was yours like.
Yes.
Did you guys have to do like chores or anything like that, or?
We not in a detox, but like
Yeah,
yeah, like when I got to the actual rehab program, like we
yeah,
would have Sundays, we would have to do chores. Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that was it.
And what type of program was it? Was it like a 12-step program or?
So it was kind of like a holistic program in the way where like obviously you're focusing on your addiction, like that's
Mhm.
the main focus, but it's also just like how to like better your life in every aspect of it. So like
Okay.
when you come out of it, like you know what to do when you come out of it, right? You can't just like go back into the same routine. Like you really have to have a whole different look on life.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
So it definitely was not like a 12 step. I don't think it was 12 step even. Like you had to go to like a school or a class every day.
Hmm.
Not for very long, like an hour or two. It was like, they would basically teach you like how to find like the source of your addiction and like learn how to overcome it and like yeah. So there was like this whole like teaching process to it for
Of
sure.
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I wouldn't say, it definitely was like the program that they recommend afterwards is called like Smart Recovery, which is kind of like
I
the
know
different
smart.
version of the AA, like kind of like the non-religious
Yeah.
which
I
is
think it's
definitely
self-management and recovery training is smart.
Mhm, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like it because I think as an AA more of like a religious thing, if I remember
Well,
correctly.
and that's what I was going to say. So the 12 step and AA and NA, it steers itself away from religion, but it is all about God, but it's the God of your understanding. So when I did
Oh, that
12
helps.
step stuff, it was like the God of my understanding was the universe and and
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. So but I think people get turned off a lot from the whole talk of God in there. And I think a lot of rehabs, there are obviously 12 step rehabs, but I think a lot more of the ones they want to be like open to everyone, so they don't really focus on the 12 step thing.
Yes,
It
yes.
was great for me. Obviously, I didn't do the religious part of it, but I did the 12 steps. But I liked the
But it's good
whole
to know that you can do that without the religious aspect of it. Because I feel like the religious aspect is popular because a lot of people are, but then people like, us, if you're not, it
yeah.
does kind of scare you away from it a little bit. I was like, oh,
And I think sometimes, I've seen people that go into AA and they're not religious, but because they hear the mention of God and the higher power, they then focus on that God being, like a religious God, and they then become like kind of born again. And I find that's
yeah,
quite I mean, it's, I'll probably get a lot of people complaining, but I find it quite dangerous because people that are in our situation are very vulnerable. So they do open themselves up to new kind of aspects. And if they're taking in all this kind of, for want of a better word, religious kind of, overtones, they can go down that path where,
yeah,
I didn't really go. But I think
definitely,
AA and
I
NA,
agree.
they do say they're non-religious, but there is a lot of talk of God, and it's God of your
Okay.
understanding. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's what I thought. I've never been to one. I've just things that I hear people say.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, the smart recovery is what they suggested when you get out of the rehab.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what else to share about the rehab situation.
And
Uh,
did you meet lots of people that you're still kind of in touch with, or I
so
don't
I
know how
wouldn't
that
say
would
that
be.
like I'm in touch with them, other than the fact that like we follow each other on social media.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
at the beginning we were, for the first
Yeah.
year we were, and then we just kind of went our separate ways.
Yeah,
What
and
was
that
interesting?
happens. That happens. And I'm sure, if they phoned you and say, "Oh, I'm struggling," or whatever, then you'd be there. But it's the same. I mean, unfortunately, I've lost a few people that I was in rehab with,
Yeah.
due to alcohol, and that does
Yeah.
happen, and that's the kind of scary part. At the beginning, you're kind of like, "Oh my God," but then, I spoke to someone and he was like, "Yeah, you kind of become numb to it after a while because this disease does take lives all the time, and
Oh
it's."
yeah.
We are the lucky ones that kind of get sober and stay sober. But yeah, there's a few that I'm still kind of, as you say, we'll text every now and then and just to
Yeah.
check in and see how
Which is
everyone's
good.
doing.
That's
Yeah,
really
yeah, of
nice.
course.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and it was interesting at the rehab too, because I guess I didn't know what to expect, but just like majority of the people by far were just other people like that were very similar to me. Like, I think when people think of addicts, they think of like the bum on the side of the street that's drinking out of the paper bag,
Yeah,
like that's what
absolutely.
everybody's first, like, the first thing that comes to mind when they think of addicts. But like so many of like these men and women were just not like that. Like, some of them were like doctors or just like nurses that were just very polished and like nice looking, just very
Yeah, yeah,
normal people.
yeah. And
And
this
it
is
makes
the
you realize
thing.
that it can just happen to anybody, and that how many people in our lives probably do have addictions and maybe we just wouldn't even know.
It certainly, like addiction doesn't discriminate. So that's the thing. And that's also why I find the AA kind of mantra anonymous. I find that so kind of baffling now because I want to kind of try to break down that stigma that you're talking about by
Yeah.
saying, you know what, like there's so many people in all around the world that are struggling that don't want to come out and say, listen, I've got a problem because of the stigma that goes with it. They don't want to be looked down upon in society.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you and me, we're much more dependable and honest and
Oh
reliable
yeah.
than somebody that is sinking three bottles of wine a night. So
Yeah.
I'd
Definitely.
rather
I
be
know.
the
And it's
I
like you want these people to get the help they deserve. And obviously, you can't get that help until they admit the problem
Yeah,
and come forward with it and are honest with themselves. Yeah,
absolutely,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, Yeah, so the rehab experience was just, it was really positive. I almost didn't want to leave at one point because I was like so comfortable in my bubble zone with like my friends and everything.
I get that.
But I
Yeah.
had to leave, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
um so it was interesting because I was getting out of rehab and I didn't know what to expect. Like I didn't want to like leave with too much confidence. Like I wanted to be like, okay, like I have to be careful, right?
Mhm.
Like leaving here. So I didn't know what to expect. I was like, okay, like I don't get any temptations inside the rehab, but that's because I'm surrounded by people who are teaching me. Like you're just in the right environment that you don't get it. But I was
Yeah.
like, what happens like when I go home and like after work I walk by the store that like I would always buy wine at on the way home?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
start thinking about those situations like how am I going to handle it, because like you have no idea at that point.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I was a little nervous for that, but also just like ready to just like go and apply it to my life. And I remember like one of the first realizations that like I knew that I had a hold on this was like I had to take a flight back home
Hmm.
because it was like January, so it was very snowy and like my parents could not drive to come get me.
Yeah. Of
So I
course.
took a flight and I was thinking, I'm going to be getting on this flight all by myself. Like, there's going to be a bar like at the airport. Like, am I going to walk by the bar and feel tempted to like drink it? Like, I'm thinking, I'm just preparing myself for all these scenarios.
Yeah.
And then like when I got on the plane, I like realized like, oh, I didn't even think about the bar. Like, it didn't
Okay.
even occur to me. And so it was
Yeah.
like my first step of confidence. Like, okay, like this hopefully will go well.
Yeah.
Uh, And so I guess one of the things I did want to talk about, because I've only met really a few other people in the sober space that can relate to this.
Hmm.
I actually, for somebody who was just like so horribly addicted to alcohol, I actually found sobriety to be surprisingly easy.
Okay.
I don't know if you've talked to a lot of people, so I don't know if you've heard this. And I for a while I didn't want to talk about it because I was scared that it would sound like I was bragging or that I was lying or that I was trying to make sobriety come up like seem like it was a breeze.
Hmm.
Like I wasn't comfortable talking about it for some time,
Oh
you
no, I
know?
get that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking like people are gonna be like, okay, whatever, lady.
Yeah.
But I just never felt like tempted to drink, like ever. I was wondering, like, and I also wanted to find out for myself, like, how can someone go from being so addicted, feeling like I couldn't live without alcohol, to all of a sudden just feeling like I'm fine without it and I never need it again. Like it wasn't making sense in my head. I wanted answers.
Hmm. Hmm.
The only thing I would say is like for the first year, I would kind of went through like a mourning period where I was like, it would happen a couple times a month where like I would see a picture of like me and my friends at a bar and like it was almost like I would feel a little sad for a moment. Like those moments are gone forever. Like I used to feel so like free and like the feeling when like you're drinking and you're out
Yeah.
on the town with your friends. I was like, I'm never going to feel that again. And so sometimes I would feel a little bit down, but like it was very fleeting. An
Yeah.
hour or two later, I'd feel okay again.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, after that, it was just like I didn't ever find that I was telling myself, like, okay, like, don't buy the bottle of wine, like, don't drink that drink. It just
Yeah.
didn't happen. Um, I don't know. How about for you? Did you feel that way, or did you feel like you had to?
You know what? I
Did
was
you
like,
get
what?
cravings?
It's like what we were saying about when we were done, and like every other time before when I'd got sober, in the back of my head, it was kind of like going, you're gonna have a drink again. Like you're gonna give up for this amount of time, but you're gonna have a drink again. But then the last time, and I went through the detox, and I was like, and I said to myself, right, this is it. You have to do it this time because you're gonna end up in the ground. Like
Yeah,
I'd done the jail, I'd done the institutions, and the last thing is death, and I didn't want that. So I was kind of like, right, I've got to do everything I can, and I just threw myself into it.
yeah,
And luckily, I didn't have like I'd relocated back over here because my parents were here, so I didn't have this group of friends that were
yeah,
constantly trying to get me to go out to the pub. Not that I had that over there because I kind of isolated myself in my drinking anyway. So I was kind of like going to the meetings every day, and you know what, I had like what you're saying, like the little thoughts and like going down the supermarket or but it wasn't as strong as it had been before because I just knew this time that if I picked up, I would be
yes,
right back to where I was before. And I thought, why would I want to go back there? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So kind of like, yeah, I was doing the work, and yeah, there was times when I was like, right, I really want a drink, but it would go out of my head quite quickly, because I guess you did the work in the rehab for those, 40, 45 days. And it sounds like you've got a really good group of, a
Yeah.
good family and support network around you. And I think that is key. If you've got that, like I know a lot of people that they get sober and then they've still got friends saying, "Oh, come on down the pub just now."
Oh
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah.
They're not saying to them have a drink, but they're saying to them come to the place where you used to go, and it's like the temptation's right there. So if you keep yourself out of that, then it's. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think once you've made that decision in your head, like I did, like you did, then I was like, "There's no way I'm going back to drinking," and
Exactly. And you know what you said about the support system, that is obviously a huge factor. Like
yeah,
being surrounded by people who are not tempting you, people who are supporting you, people who know that if I did decide to go back to drinking would not allow that to happen. You know what I mean?
yeah, 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 exactly. And it's like, they are kind of probably watching you for the first like couple of months or 6 months, and they're like, but I think once you get sober, and for me and you, that like doing the actual detox, the medical detox, once it's out of your system, you're
Mhm.
kind of like you're free from it, that side of it's gone. Then it's the mental aspect, and I know that can be really really tough to break as well. But obviously you were kind of in the rehab for over a month, and that helps break that as well. And I
Yes.
think it's as I said before, it's just getting away from that putting yourself in those dangerous positions, like when you're going to a party. Like I've had people in my group saying, well, I've got this party or this birthday party or this work to do. And I'm like, you know what? Like it's too early. Just stay away from it. Like stay away from it for at least 6 months. And
At
then you'll
least, yeah.
feel, yeah, then you'll feel stronger. But it's like because we've got that addictive personality, we kind of want everything here and now, and
Yes.
I've learned patience by getting sober. So much patience because I
Still,
never had
I'm
patience
still
before.
learning it. I've come a long way, but I still feel like I'm a work in progress with that
Oh, of
part.
course, of course. Yeah, yeah. So how is life now for you? I mean, so when was your actual sober date? What was the date when you went
So it
into
was
rehab?
January 23rd, 2018.
Wow. So
I think it was like the first day that the alcohol was like officially out of my system, you know. I think I had
yeah.
arrived at the rehab the day before that, but I was still kind of drunk.
No, no,
So
I
yeah,
get that. So seven
January
years.
23rd, 2018. So yeah, it's been 7 years, over
Yeah,
7 years.
that's
So I got
amazing.
sober right before I turned 30, which was kind of cool too, because it
Yeah.
was like a month, it was like a couple months before my birthday. And it was kind
Wow.
of like, oh, I'm entering my 30s, like with a fresh start, right?
Yeah, well, I got sober 6 months after my 40th, so kind of
Yeah,
similar. A
same,
decade later,
same for
but
you.
yeah,
You
yeah. So
what? Sorry.
a decade later, but
A
I got
decade later, but
yeah,
still the same thing. You're entering a new decade of your
yeah,
life, like
yeah.
with a fresh start, which it kind of adds to the coolness of it and everything.
Of course.
Yeah, life is really good. Like I've definitely I love life so much more sober for sure. I definitely am one of those people that's like seize the day, like cheesy like that.
No, it's not cheesy at all, Erica. And I was going to say, you were one of the first accounts that I kind of started following when I got my Recovery Jimmy page set up. So, and I think we messaged backwards and forwards back then. So you were a great kind of inspiration to me. I know your page isn't kind of mostly about recovery now because you said earlier you kind of moved on from that, but you're a
Yes.
mother now, and
Yeah.
life is
Yeah, and that was,
fantastic.
important to me too. Like when I first got sober, I was like, I knew that I most likely wanted to be a mom someday, but it took me quite a few years to finally, like 4 or 5 years after I got sober to make that happen because I was thinking, I felt like I was still getting to know myself. I'm sure as you know, it's like you're
Oh,
getting to
yeah,
know like the new you. And I
yeah.
felt like I just wanted to give myself time to like get to know myself again, to have my body heal a little bit from all that trauma I put through, and like and at some point, I was like, I don't want to have a kid yet. Like, I'm having so much like fun of like my freedom of like getting to know me again. And like, that was number one before I felt that I could be a good mom.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I get that. It's like, well, one of my questions was, if you could go back to when drinking really started ramping up and became a problem, if you could go back then and take the kind of sober path, would you do that, or would you still stay on the path that you're on just now?
oh, wait, sorry. Can you explain that one more time? What you
So,
mean?
like, if you could go back to like when you kind of started, drinking, and
Yeah.
if you could say to your younger self, go like Erica, what would it be like, 16, 17? If you could go this one path where you don't ever drink, or would
Hmm.
you still stay on the same path that you're on now?
Oh,
Like
oh
a
man, that's a
parallel
good.
kind of universe, where like Erica's never had a drink and she's got this life, or it's like the one that you're on right now where you got sober.
I would probably just stay on the one that I'm on now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it would be nice if I never started drinking. That would be great. But it's just like I kind of feel like it's just part of like my journey and who I am. And like when I think back on all of that, I don't really cringe at it anymore. I don't really like get as much PTSD thinking about it like I did the first year.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like this is like made me who I am today, and like look how strong I am that I was able to pull myself out of something that I literally thought was not possible at one point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like
and that's it. You've got an amazing Instagram page and amazing followers. And
yeah.
your life from your pictures just looks like, absolute enjoyment and joyous life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I tell people, it's like everyone always says Instagram is fake, which I have my opinion on that is very like both two-sided. I think
Hmm.
Instagram absolutely can be fake, but I also think that Instagram can be very real, like people like to share happy moments of their life, and it
Yeah.
doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't take away from like the bad moments of their life too, but you know what I mean? Like,
Oh no, I
I
mean,
feel what?
well, I was going to say Instagram, social media as a whole can be massively fake, and I get that. But I think being in the sober community that's on there, it really helped me right from the start. And I
Oh
know
yeah.
it's helping so many people. And I find the sober community on there just like a whole fountain of strength for people and support,
Oh yeah.
and I
It's
think,
definitely the positive side of social media. Like everything
yeah,
comes with good and bad, right? Everything.
of course.
Social media can be good, social media can be bad. For sober people, I think it does a lot more good than it does bad. I'm sure others might have different opinions on it that have had a different experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, I know there can be toxic accounts on there. I haven't come across them, touch wood, and I just see it as being very positive. But then there is obviously there's a darker side of social media, and I when I first got sober, I had to take myself off a lot of groups because the whole COVID thing was around at that point, and it was like,
Ugh,
there
that was
was
the
like
worst.
the vaccinated and then there was the anti-vax, and it was like I just used to sit in the morning and I would be reading through all these comments and I'd be getting myself really wound up and angry, and it was like, why am
Oh,
I
me
getting
too.
angry over people I don't even know? So I just deleted the groups and just like, followed stuff
Well,
that was like
I think that's a
positive.
good thing. Like I think with social media, like I feel like you need to train yourself in life to like be able to tell like what is real and not real, or what something is not serving you, or when something's upsetting you to take a step back. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
it's that way
yeah.
with social media. Like if something's really upsetting you or bothering you, then like just take a step back from it, and when you feel ready to go back on it, go for it. So
Exactly, and that's it. Having a social media break, it's definitely really really beneficial because I was listening to a podcast today, and there was a great musician. She's Irish because she's called Seema. I don't know if you know her. She's kind of folksy but kind of pop, and she was talking about mental health, and she was saying how there's a lot of like Gen Z, people that go to the gig and they'll go down to the barrier and they'll get like the front row of the crowd, and then they'll sit on the floor on their phones and they won't even pay attention
oh
to
my,
the support act because they're not there to see the support act, and they're just sitting scrolling with their headphones in, and it's like, and I was like,
that
this
yeah,
is it's
that's
really
kind of
baffling. Yeah. And it's like, so it can be affecting, like, well, obviously their attitude to people, and
oh
their
yeah.
mental health is kind of struggling with the scrolling as well.
Yeah,
Um,
even I have to stop myself sometimes, since we do know that we have addictive personalities. I find myself addicted to scrolling at times, and I have to like make myself put my phone away.
yeah, but you can do that, and that's the thing. It's like, you go, right, I'm putting that down. I've got to go to bed, or I've got to go and do whatever. But you can put it down, but it's like when people have, and you're like, oh my God, like I hear young people. And I know even people my age, they've been scrolling for like 2 hours, and it's like, well, what have you got from those 2 hours that you've been
Oh, I
scrolling
know.
for? I definitely
That's
don't
insane.
scroll for
Well,
that
it's
amount of
hard for
time.
them in the sense that like it's like the normal for them. It's kind of like
Yeah,
us when you first start drinking and everyone's drinking. It feels normal to you, like you're not intending to get addicted to it.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
like that's like kind of this new generation. That's when I decided to have a child too. I was like, oh my god, like I'm gonna have a kid in like this generation. Like that was one of like my deciding factors. Like, do I want to have a kid or not? Like Yeah. Anyways,
I know, but I mean, what are they called? Generation Alpha now, I think it is, or that's the next one
yeah, I
anyway.
think he's
So
alpha. He's alpha.
yeah,
Yeah,
gone back,
exactly.
gone
So
back
I was
round.
thinking like for them it's just normal. Like being on your phone all the time is just the norm. So like they don't even really know that like it's a negative thing, which
Yeah.
just puts them in more of like a, I don't know if you want to call it like a dangerous situation, but yeah, an addictive situation for sure with
It
their
is. I
phone.
mean, I'm stepfather to three kids, 14, 12, and 8, and it's kind of like, it's we don't know what the kind of ramifications are from this constant doom scrolling all the time, and it's like we just hope that we've got parameters in place that stops them scrolling endlessly, because they'll just scroll. But then you know what, like look back in like the 50s and 60s when TVs first came around, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
you can't sit in front of there, you'll get square eyes
Oh,
and all that, and it's
it's
like,
literally yeah. I mean, anybody that complains about this generation, I always tell people who call this generation woke and stuff. I said, every we have a word for it now, but every prior generation would always think that about the next
yeah,
generation.
yeah,
Like they're always
exactly.
going to complain. They're always going to complain about it. Like it's just
They're always going to say they're not, we were the greatest generation. They're not I mean, I'm Generation X and we've got the coolest name. So, we're definitely the best generation.
yeah.
But
Oh, of course.
yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
So,
millennial. I don't know.
millennials pretty good. But then I think because I'm on the cusp, I think, well, my
You're on the
fiance,
cusp. Oh yeah.
I'm 80. So I think 80 is when, I think 81 is when millennial starts, but they've got this new one, they call it zillennial. So it's like
Oh, I don't even know that one.
Xennial. So it's like we've got the best of both worlds because we grew up with technology, but also we had a world where there wasn't any that much
Oh,
technology.
yeah, I'm glad we got to experience that world growing up. So you were born in 81?
80. So yeah.
80. Okay, 88 for me. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm glad that we got to experience that growing
Yeah,
up, to be
exactly.
honest.
There was no internet, and it's like, or it was very, very infancy of the internet. So
Yeah.
would you say that alcohol still has a place in our society today?
Does it still have a place? Like, should it have a
Like,
place?
yeah, like in your opinion, do you think it still has a place in our society? I know it's
I
quite
don't
a tough
know.
question, but
It is tough. I feel like I don't feel that's tough for me to answer. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't think that it should, if I really had to be honest. I think it
Mhm.
just causes way much harm, more harm than good
Yeah,
by
yeah.
far. If that's what you mean, right? Like,
That's what I mean. I mean, and the thing is, it's a weird question because I'm not saying we're going to outlaw alcohol because I know that that's just kind of like unheard of. But I think what I mean
exactly.
is like, I think there needs to be a lot more education on it. Like
Yes.
it causes 7 types of cancers, and that's not anywhere to be seen on bottles or anything like that. Like I think it's going to go the same way as smoking has done. Where it's kind of almost outlawed now. I think in this country now they brought in a new bill to say that kids born after a certain year won't ever be allowed to buy cigarettes, which, I think,
Oh,
yeah. So it's kind of like, but then there's that whole like, once they're an adult, surely it's their choice whether they can smoke or not, and but I still think,
exactly. I know. That's why I'm so on the cusp of it. I do think more needs to be done for sure. I mean, God, there's just so many people driving drunk all the time, even,
yeah. Well,
that
it's weird because the government's not going to do anything because they make so much money off
much
of big
money. I
alcohol.
know.
It's
Oh,
it's
for sure. No, I
unbelievable.
definitely think it, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. I definitely think a lot more needs to be done, definitely. And it's
yeah.
funny because like I never wanted to be that person that was like judging others for drinking. They're like, oh, the sober girl that can't drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
but
Like,
sometimes you can't help it a little bit because you see the damage that it does to so many. And
well,
just because somebody doesn't go to rehab or admit that they have a problem doesn't mean that they don't have a problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah. Like the
so
thing
many
where,
people do.
if the parents have been out and they're kind of like, they've been out in a big party and they've got the kids and the kids just got an iPad put in front of them because they're too hungover to go to the park or, go for a walk around the lake or
Yeah.
whatever. That's a negative impact from alcohol. Whereas people will just go, oh, it's all right to cut loose every now and then. And it's like, yeah, but it's every freaking weekend. So yeah, yeah.
Exactly. I know. It's like you really are, they're not really taking a look at the real picture, or they're just in denial too. Denial is like a huge thing. I have a friend of mine who she, her and her husband have been drinking. They love drinking. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And she thinks they're borderline addicts, but she says that they're both extremely functional alcoholics, which I think is a huge problem. Like for me, I was not a functional alcoholic. Like, and that's what made me go to rehab, is that I was like spiraling out of control and I couldn't live like that any longer. I
Yeah.
think for people who are functional alcoholics, they can still go to their jobs, they can still live their normal lives, and that just puts off getting help.
Yeah, yeah, of course, because they're like, we're just we can manage this. We've got this under control. And it's like somebody told me in any like the problem with the disease, it never gets better, it only gets worse. So they might be functioning now, but they're only like a couple of steps away from that getting beyond
Exactly.
control. Yeah.
And so she told me that she has seriously considered like telling her and her husband, like, let's go to a rehab like Erica has, like a holistic one, you know?
Hmm.
Because sometimes people go to this place that I went to. Sometimes people go there that don't even have like huge addictions. They just feel like their life is feeling out of control. They just feel like they are depressed. Like you can go for many different reasons, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so she told me, she's like, I just don't know if like we could qualify for going there. She's like, because we don't have like withdrawals, we don't have the shakes. And I had to tell her, I said, you don't have to have any of those things to have an
Yeah,
addiction problem. Half
yeah,
of the people that went to the rehab, they didn't come in with the shakes. They
yeah.
didn't come in like on their deathbed. They were fine. They just knew that alcohol was causing issues in their life, you know?
Well, we have a term, you guys have probably got it as well, but it's like gray area drinking. So it's like
Yeah.
it's like you're not an alcoholic, in quotes, but it's like you've got your alcohol's bringing a negative impact onto your life. And if
Yes.
that's what's happening, then give it up. That's the thing. I mean, the
Exactly.
charity that I work for over here, Motivate, they do sometimes encourage like drink in moderation, which I don't agree
Yeah.
with it because I could never moderate. And I think if your life has been negatively impacted by alcohol or drugs, then it's not going to get better. So I think
Yes,
just
you just,
knock it
yeah.
on the head. And
Oh
plus,
yeah, and I always tell people, like, for example, like for me, I told you that I didn't find sobriety to be difficult at all. Like it came very easy and natural to me.
yeah,
Like even though it came so natural and easy to me, like that still doesn't mean that I ever think alcohol is an option again. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I've removed alcohol as an option in my mind. That's just the mindset I have. I know it's something that I can never go back to.
yeah,
Um, so I just, yeah, I feel like a lot of people just have to have that mindset. Just kind of remove it as like an option from your life. Like, it's troublesome and it's not going to get any better. The
yeah,
people that I went to rehab with that had that attitude when they came in, a few of the girls I was friends with, a few of them were like, I think that I could still moderate like when I get home, because they were there because their significant other wanted them to be there. Their parents wanted them to be there, but they didn't fully think they had a problem yet.
yeah,
All of those people were back to drinking like 2 weeks after rehab, and they all were back in rehab again.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm only laughing because like I could see it coming, you know what
No,
I mean? And I told
exactly.
them that.
You're kind of like, oh man, this is never going to end well, so don't do it. But you can't. The thing is, with addiction, they need to see it themselves. You can't
Oh,
tell them, and that's the problem.
that's
There's
the
people.
biggest thing. And like for it's interesting, because when I first got to like the detox, like everybody had to go through detox even if they were fine. You just
Mhm.
have to go through the program. Those people that aren't like badly withdrawing can get out sooner, but everyone had to be in there. And I remember like two or three of the girls I made friends with, like
Mhm.
when they got there the same night as me, and I was jealous at the time because they all seemed perfectly fine, and I was like on my deathbed. I thought I was dying. Like
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
to have like medical help. Like I was having panic attacks. Like I was
yeah,
just in such bad shape. And I remember thinking like I wish I could be like them. But then think about it, in the long run, all of them ended up back at rehab, one of them 3 times. So here I was like all jealous that they seemed fine when they first got in there. But I almost think like me being at my rock bottom was like obviously a good thing,
yeah.
because I was like, I never want to experience this ever again, you know?
Yeah, and that's right because they hadn't got to that point yet, and they needed to. Not everyone
Yes.
needs to get to that point. No, and that's the
No,
thing.
no,
I know loads of people that like they've just
definitely
kind of
not.
stopped it and given up, and they've been okay, but they know
Yes.
still in their head they don't want to go back to it. So would you say,
Yes.
Erica, you regret getting sober?
No. Do I regret getting sober? No, definitely not.
No, no.
I think
And
that's safe to say.
what advice would you give to someone that was kind of like sober curious or ready to kind of make that change and just get sober and stay sober?
I would say that definitely, if you are having that question in your mind, then that means that you do have a problem. It
Yeah.
might not be spiraling out of control yet, but it more than likely will go there. So if you're recognizing that there could be a possible problem, to act on it as quickly as you can.
Mhm.
and just to make sure that you have to change every aspect of your life. Like you can't go back to hanging out with those same friends that you would drink with. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to support you, people who aren't going to tempt you, people who are going to be there to call when you're feeling like you want to give up. Like, yeah, you just and you have to find new hobbies and things in life that kind of just like, you know, make you feel happy, that fuel a fire in you, like you have to replace whatever you did when you were drinking, like what that would make you want to drink. You have to replace other activities in life with it. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah,
Like,
no. It's like you have to kind of keep your mind and body busy because
yeah.
otherwise that would slip back in. So yeah,
Yes, you're going
no,
to find so
totally
many
get
other
that.
things that are going to make you feel happier and better and than the drinking ever did, and you're going to know that you're just going to be healthy mentally and physically.
Yeah.
One thing that was important to me was like I felt so horrible the last few years of my addiction. Like every day my body hurt. Like every day I was having panic attacks. So when I got sober, I knew that I wanted to feel my absolute best. Like if I'm going to be sober and I don't want to be tempted by alcohol ever again, like I need to make sure that I feel so good.
Yeah.
So like I changed the way I was eating. Started working out every day. I started hiking because I just wanted to feel this natural high of life. I wanted my body
Absolutely.
to just feel good as is.
And it's weird what you were saying there about like, doing all these other things. And I remember someone said to me right back at the beginning, oh, like you've given up drinking, like what are you gonna do, with your weekends? And I was like, everything else. Drinking is just
Yeah,
one aspect of life, but there's so many other things that you can do when you stop drinking, and that's
that's
it.
so true. And my friend that I was telling you about, the one who said she doesn't think she needs to go to rehab because she's not having withdrawals and stuff,
Yeah.
she said that to me. She said, I just don't know. She goes, so do you just like, for example, I went to Vegas a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
By the way, do not go to Vegas for anybody trying to get sober until you feel super confident in your sobriety. I
Okay.
was 5 years in at that time, so I was fine to go to Vegas. I had never been before. And I had so much fun sober. And when I told her that, like, she couldn't believe it. She goes, so you just went to Vegas and like you just had a good time not drinking? And and I told her yes. And I told her, I promise you, like, once you get sober and like you start feeling that natural high in life, like you're gonna feel so proud of yourself that you can just go somewhere where everybody parties and drinks and like you're still having a good time. Like I had a good
Yeah.
time like just walking down, the strip and enjoying the beautiful sights and like eating all the amazing food and like having fun in the fancy hotels. Like there's so many other fun things to
And
enjoy.
and making memories, but also making memories that you're gonna remember. That's the thing.
Exactly.
It's like people go, "Oh, I'm
Yes.
making memories." It's like, yeah, but you won't remember that tomorrow. Because you're pissed out your head. So, yeah, yeah,
Yes. And I think it also feels amazing to look back at where you were. Like it used to take me several drinks and like smoking several cigarettes to feel normal, quote
yeah,
unquote, happy, quote unquote. And like now I get excited by like buying a new, brand of tea and a candle to like light while I'm watching my movie at nighttime. Like all of a sudden those tiny little things just make you feel so happy and you think like, wow, look how far I've come.
yeah, yeah. No, I get that, and that's it. I'm definitely one for getting the candles on in here in the cottage at night, and I just love it.
Yeah.
It's just the way life is just a different. It's just a different life, and I kind of want to scream to the people that are still out there drinking, just pop on over to this side of the fence because give it 3 months because a month is never enough. But if you give it 3 months, you won't want to go back because life is just so much more better and so much more
Oh my
joyous.
gosh.
And yeah,
100%.
hundred
100%.
percent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Erica, is there anything else you want to add or tell the listeners or?
Um, I don't know. I think I covered almost pretty much everything that I wanted to cover.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a
Yeah.
fantastic story. And where can people find you, on your social media?
So yeah, so I haven't been on social media as much lately. I come in and out of it, but I
Yeah.
always come back.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of
so
course.
so it's yeah, my social media is Erica Erica, and then Chris. Wait, oh my gosh, what is it? No, I'm trying to remember.
Do you know
Sorry.
what? Do you know what, Erica? I'll put it in the show notes anyway. It's fine. I think
Okay,
I
I'm
think you've
like, do I
changed
know
it a
my
few
own
times,
like
haven't you?
username?
I think you've changed it a few times, but yeah, well, I'll put it in the description of the
Yeah,
episode.
please do because I do like to go on there and I do like to share my life and the stories. Oh, one more thing I do want to add. We were
Mhm.
talking about this. You said you were going through my Instagram and it just seems like I live a very happy, like good life.
Oh
And
yeah,
then we started
yeah.
talking about how some people say social media is fake. And I said, I don't always, it is sometimes, but I don't always think so. Someone the other day said the same thing. Like, you live such a beautiful life. Is it really that way? And I said, honestly, it's true. Like, everything I share about my life is how my life really is. And of
Mhm,
course, I have hard moments. Of course, you have fights and arguments with the people you love in your life, and you have days where you feel down.
mhm.
That's a given. I think it happens to everyone. But I do feel like my life on a day to day basis is beautiful, and I do make it beautiful. So I just wanted to add that part.
Yeah, no, and I love that because that's it. You know, you're portraying your own real life, and it is a
Yeah.
happy and joyous life because you've got sober, you know, and I'm sure all the other aspects, you know, of being with your husband and having the birth of your child as well, and that kitten that you had. I think it was maybe a couple of months, maybe a while back. It's
Yes.
very similar to my little cat, Penny, but they're the same color. So
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Are you a cat person?
I've got two cats, and
That's amazing.
yeah.
I'm such a cat person. And if someone tells me they're a cat person, I instantly like them.
I should have told you that at the beginning, but yeah.
Because a lot of people a lot of people can be cat haters. Have you ever noticed that? Like, some people will really hate on cats.
I don't understand it, right? I can get why. I mean, I love dogs as well, but I understand why some people can be scared of dogs. So they might transpose that into being, they don't like dogs, so they're scared of them. I get that. I have
Yeah.
no understanding why people don't like cats. They're clean, they don't smell, they kind of take care of themselves, and they're so loving as well. So, like, if
You
someone
said
doesn't
it
like cats,
perfectly.
I'm kind of like, I don't like you, you know?
Yeah.
I don't
That's how
trust
I
them.
feel too. And it's funny because when you talk to other cat people, like, everything you just said, like, I get, like, we just get each other.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
That's
like, when
it.
someone tells me they don't like cats, like if a man told me that, like, say that I was single, I would be like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like, it's not gonna work out. Like,
Yeah. Well, I'm moving in with my fiance next week. I mean, this weekend, kind of we're moving in together. And they've already got a cat down there called Begin. So she's a little Manx cat. Manx cats don't have the
oh,
tail. So we're gonna be
yes.
putting my two cats and their cat together. So there's gonna be probably some fireworks and whatnot next week, but I will report back on my page, I'm sure. So yeah.
Yes, do it. Another thing that I love about, like, I feel like the internet, social media, have you noticed cat videos are just like one of the most popular things on the internet?
Yeah.
And I love it because, like, for so long, cats had such a bad reputation, and people just would say such terrible things about cats, about how they don't like people, about how they're boring and they have no personality. And then social media happened, and there's millions upon millions of videos of cats being the exact opposite of all those things. They're silly, they're funny, they're
Yeah.
quirky, they love their humans, and there's proof of it everywhere now.
Well, if you look at the emoji lists on phones, the only animal to have multiple emotions on the emojis is a cat. It's not a dog.
Yes,
It's a cat.
that's so
It's always a
true.
cat. There's no dog like with hearts in its eyes or,
Yeah,
smiling or laughing. It's all cats. So
that's a good
whoever,
point.
yeah, whoever kind of came up with the emojis to begin with, those cat ones have always been there, and no one's added dogs or hamsters or I don't know, guinea pigs. But yeah, I'm trying to think of
I,
pets now,
I,
like
I
snakes.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yes, living the sober cat lover life. It's the best life.
Oh, absolutely. So, thank you so much for coming on to do this, Erica. It's just been an absolute pleasure
Yes, you're
speaking to
very
you.
welcome. And I wanted to tell you that I really love your Instagram account too.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I love
So,
that you loved being in nature. I love nature too. For me, that's a big part of sobriety, is putting yourself out in nature.
yeah,
So I love watching that. I love reading what you have to say, and I love looking at the pictures that you take. You do a very good job.
I appreciate that, Erica. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's as I say, I've been following you since right back at the beginning, and I'm coming up on 5 years in August. So, it's been a
Nice.
while. So it's been an absolute treat to kind of finally meet you and have a chat with you today. So,
I
thank you.
know.
And I
I enjoyed this.
know
Thank you for the
I know you,
opportunity.
I know your story is going to help so many people. So thanks again.
Of
And
course.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Erica.
Yeah,
Speak to
you're
you
welcome.
soon.
And I'll see
Cheers.
you on social media.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you so much, Erica, for giving up your time and coming on the podcast after hours. Yeah, her story really resonated with me. The whole drinking on the way to rehab, that was me. And it's obviously a kind of safety aspect as well, because you don't want to go into full withdrawal before you can get, medical attention with that. It's a dangerous place to be, but if you've got the support network around you that understands the dangers of just pure cold turkey, it's a better place to be. People need to learn that, when you're in such a difficult situation with alcohol, to just stop it is so mind-blowingly dangerous. It needs to be looked into. It's having that understanding from your family and friends, because a lot of the time people are just like, you know what, you drink too much, just give it up, just stop it, because we're sick of this and we can't stand it anymore. I did go through phases of that, and I'm sure Erica did as well. But once, your support network starts to learn just the ramifications of that, you would stop if you could. It's kind of endangering your life and your well-being. So if you could just stop, then we would. But it's not that simple in certain cases. So so thankful that Erica has such an amazing network, support network with her, and still kind of helping her today as well. And the fact that Erica, and she said she feels like, I don't know if she used the word imposter, but once you get through that initial like breaking point of getting alcohol out your system, and then working on the kind of mental aspect of it, the obsession. Once you get through that, it is easier, and it does get easier. And Erica said that she doesn't really think of alcohol at all anymore, and that's the same as me. She obviously got to that place a lot quicker than I did, or some other people. But what I'm trying to get across is you can get there. As I say, I see people that are struggling right now, but you just need to get through that initial pain and boundary of, oh my God, I can't imagine life without a drink. But life is better without a drink, and that is the key. That is what I'm trying to hit home here. It's such a better way of life, and it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous to live this life. Getting there is, and it can be for some, but once you get there, it's a beautiful place. So thank you again, Erica. Such an amazing conversation with you, and I know it's going to help so many people. So thanks everyone who's listened thus far, all the way to the end, and we will be back next week. So thanks very much. As I always say, hit the 5-star review button, or 1 if you want, and let me know why. Share it, let people know what's going on After Hours with Jimmy Thistle. And until next week, stay safe, stay sober, and stay supportive. Bye bye.